I got to get the names because I love these. I believe in giving people credit for what they say and write, so I will have the names tomorrow or maybe Thursday. Yeah, Thursday we have our session. Here's another one. Don't let other people's failure create fear in you when going after something. I'll never forget when I decided that I was going to become a motivational speaker. So many people said, "Do you know how many members there are in the National Speakers Association?" I said, "Yeah, around 3,000. Do you think you're the first one to decide you're going to be known nationally and internationally? You're not that naive, are you? Over 3,000 members and you have nothing going for you. You'll be the only fly in that glass of milk. There's no way you can compete with them people with PhDs and MBAs, people from around the world. Who are you, Les Brown, from Overtown and Liberty City in Miami, Florida? Who are you? You're nobody. You don't have their money, their contacts, their relationships, their corporate experience. I wouldn't waste my time if I were you." Well, thank God you're not me, because guess what? I'm going for it. I'm going for it. See, sometimes people allow other people's opinions, experiences, or fears to govern what they will attempt to do or not do. Just because somebody else failed at it doesn't mean that you're going to fail at it. And even if you do fail at it, change your approach, don't change your decision. Did you hear what I just said? Oh, that'll preach up in here. Change your approach, don't change your decision. Alexander Graham Bell was asked, "How did you continue after failing 10,000 times?" And he said, "I didn't fail 10,000 times. I found 10,000 ways that didn't work." He changed his approach, but he didn't change his decision about what he was working on. He's on fire today. He's on fire. Yes, Tyrone, I'm on fire. What do you think about that? I think you're doing real good. Keep on, Mr. Brown. Okay, for those of you that don't know, Tyrone is a squirrel that comes up on the west side of my house. He talks to me in the morning. He talks to me and walks with me. And he just tells me various things, teaches me how to speak squirrely. Now, here's the other thing. When you got something to do, I want to talk to you and give you another point of what to do in and out of the coronavirus. Yes, you need to have a strategy. 3 kinds of people are coming out of this: millionaires, billionaires, and witnesses. You listening to me, you will not be a witness. You're going to become a millionaire or billionaire. Which one do you want to be? A witness like the majority of people who are tuning into entertainment? Write this down and put it someplace where you can see it. Look at it, read it, and remind yourself, what you tune into, you turn into. I've made several million. Now I'm working on the billion, because a good man, not a sperm donor. A good man. Oh, he didn't go there. No, he did not go there. I did. And my brother says, the shoe fits, wear it. And if it's not your shoe and it fits, wear it anyhow. You got to have something that you decide, this is how I'm going to make my mark. I was chosen. I was sent here with gifts and greatness in me, and I'm going to make a presence. I want to make a dent. Am I going to solve all the problems? No. I'm not trying to play God, no. But I can do something. And I'm going to do what I can. As George Washington Carver said, do what you can where you are with what you have and never be satisfied. Absolutely. Don't resign yourself to just being hypnotized by what's going on. Your future is going to be bright because you decided that you're going to write it, that you're going to create it, that the future will be kind to you because you are going to create your own future. That's the way to get up in the morning. Just because I'm 76, you think I'm going to be sitting around watching Netflix? Absolutely not. Netflix was a great idea that kicked cable and all the other networks behind. That's an idea. Everything that exists was, at some point in time, just an idea. I still got some ideas going on in my mind. I still know my name. What's your name? Leslie Calvin Brown. What is today? Now you're going too far. Hello, good morning to you. Oh, what a beautiful morning. Oh, what a beautiful day. I've got a wonderful feeling everything's going my way. You didn't know Homie could sing, did you? They didn't know. They didn't know, Tyrone, that Homie could go there. But you can't handle it. You got a point. Silly boy, silly boy, silly boy. That's what my sister is saying right now. I'm sure she's watching me, silly boy. Hey, listen, I want to work with you. If you got a story to tell, ask the people in our community. Anybody you know that has a hunger to speak, they'll tell you we have a good time. I do sessions with them one-on-one. I help them in so many ways. I got somebody I'm supposed to coach this morning, and we're going to have some fun because I love not only telling stories, I love to hear the story, pull the story out, let them do their own take on the story, and then show them, this is what I did with my story, so you can learn how to do it with yours. Speak intuitively. Be able to increase your value, your impact, and your cash flow. People say money won't make you happy, but it's right up there with oxygen. I want you to go to, if you're ready for something different, if you're ready to transition out of what you're doing now into something that you love, I want to ask you, if you knew you had 6 months to live, would you continue to work on that job that you're working on? I know a lot of people say no, but if you had 6 months to live now, you don't know how much time you have, but if you had 6 months to live. If you asked me that question, if I had 6 months, why, I all know what I would say. I would still speak. I gave a speech from my hospital bed. If you don't believe it, just Google it, Liz Brown speaking in the hospital. For an hour and a half, they told me I might lose my voice when they gave me radiation in my spinal area for stage 4 cancer. Listen to this, you gotta Google this. This is going to blow your mind. I was up at 3:30 this morning, and I want you to do this. I'm giving you an assignment right now. I want you to look at me right now. You see me? Okay, good. When I had received, let me say it again, when I had received 238 radiation seed implants for prostate cancer. 238. I never met anybody or heard of anybody who received more than that. The tumor was so large, and yet I gave a speech 4 days later. You know what the title of that speech was? You are more powerful than cancer. No matter how much I weighed, then minus 165 pounds, if you go to YouTube and type Les Brown, you are more powerful than cancer, you'll see it. I was giving some students instructions on how to do a video and make it informative and engaging. And the guy in the studio, he was so enthralled, I was just going to give them like 5 or 6 minutes of instructions, and it kept motioning me to continue. So I improvised and kept talking. Unbeknownst to me, his wife had breast cancer. She had given up. And he wanted to take that recording home to his wife. She's still here. That was over 29 years ago. All right, so I want you to look at me. Look at me, I looked like a skeleton, but I was fine. Though I do want to get my sexy back. I'm a fat boy right now, but I'm going to get my sexy back. Yeah, I got my little cheeks. Yeah, I need little cheeks. Mama would love these cheeks. But they're going. They're going. They got to go. They got to go. All right, listen, laughter is important. It boosts your immune system. 1 minute of laughter boosts your immune system for over 24 hours. When you get through watching me, you won't get sick for 30 years. 1 minute of anger weakens your immune system for 4 to 5 hours. I study psychoneuroimmunology. There's a strategy, there's a method to my, I'm not going to say madness, to my laughter. If you're ready to do something new, like a lady called me, she said, I just ran across you. I knew nothing about you, but I've just been watching you on YouTube, watching you speak in the Georgia Dome. Can you teach me how to speak like that and command an audience of 80,000 people? I said, yes, that's what I do. She said, oh my God, I want to learn how to do that. Can you help me have the confidence and not be fearful? I said, absolutely. She said, I'm joining Hungry to Speak, and I'm going to bring my husband to join as well. I want you to go on YouTube and put in Les Brown speaking in the Georgia Dome and just watch me. I was scared, but I did it. I was scared. Yes, I was. I went to the bathroom 7 times. I had to knock on the door. Hey, Brownie, yes, it's time, man. It's time for you to come up. Mike, okay, I just need a little bit more time. You're scared, aren't you? Yeah, Brownie, are you listening to me? Yes, come on, man, make your mother proud. Mike, don't use my mama on me. Come on, man, but he got me out of the bathroom. I was scared. Then, as we started walking toward the stage, I grabbed their hands, Dexter Yeager and Mike Williams, and I said, pray for me. And they started praying. I dropped down on my knees. Then I grabbed their hands and put them on top of my head like that was going to make a difference. But I did it. I did it scared. Scared. Oh boy, oh, he's happy. Yes, I am. Why, as Orrin Hudson would say, it's the best day of my life. And I don't know you. I can't even see you, but it's the best day of your life too. If you don't believe it, try missing one. Orrin Hudson, boy, he's a strategic thinker. Teaches our young kids how to play chess and how to be thinkers. Yeah, he's a bad boy. He's an awesome brother. But I'm just thinking about myself. Doing a little bit of self-reflection. Just listening to you, I'm thinking about me on stage and things I'm telling my team. I can't believe how much of your tapes and CDs have already embedded themselves in me. And by the way, I'm not taking any credit for it. It's just coming from the source right here. And how much of the catchphrases I'm seeing you say it, like how many times has he said something that I've said? It's like 5 times easy, like, wow, yeah, like that's where it came from. Well, One of the things is that we have to train people who want to present and connect with people how to deliver info bites. Okay? An info bite to me is interesting. Live your life the way that you want to live your life. Ladies and gentlemen, as I speak to you right now, if you had 90 days to live, how many of you would make some radical changes in your life? And most people raise their hands. And then you take a poll. You know what the majority of them would say? I would quit my job. Why? Because that's not them. Yeah, they're not doing something that's them. You spend 40 to 60 hours a week doing something that's not you. That's stressful. But if you're doing something that is you, that's your passion. And so when you realize that we have a choice to accept life as it is, or to be an active force for good, to decide, I don't want to just survive. This is not me. What it takes to survive and what it takes to live, those are two totally different things. And you've got to be willing to work for that. A lot of people are afraid of that four-letter word, willingness. The W stands for the willingness to do the things that others won't do in order to have the things tomorrow that others won't have. Ownership of your life, taking full responsibility for where you are. George Bernard Shaw said that people who make it in life look around for the circumstances they want. And if they can't find them, they create them. The R stands for the willingness to reinvent yourself. In order for a man to gain his life, he must lose his life. You've got to be willing to die to who you are now to give birth to who you are to become. The K stands for kindred spirits. You've got to come out from among people who don't have goals, who don't have dreams, because people rub off on you. You earn within $2,000 to $3,000 of your closest friends. Academy Award winner Sidney Poitier said that when you go for a walk with someone, something happens without being spoken. Either you adjust to their pace or they adjust to yours. Whose pace have you adjusted to? So if people are willing to do the work, whosoever will, let them come. A person convinced against their will is of the same opinion still. I love it. I want to ask you this question. Because we teach financial concepts, we teach financial literacy. It's been kind of weird these last couple of years because a lot of people have just been plugging in via Zoom or online. But what has been the power of assembling together, coming together, we do weekly meetings, we do conferences. It's so important because we're living in a time where we've gone from brick and mortar to click and order. The communicators, the storytellers, Steve Jobs said the storyteller is the most powerful person in the world because storytellers can set the agenda for the culture, can influence and impact people. So when you're dealing with a group of people who don't know and think they know, who've been programmed to be spectators and fans talking about who's the GOAT, who's the greatest of all time, Kobe or Michael Jordan, you've got to shift that mindset. My last question is this. Throughout this process, throughout this journey, breaking patterns keeps coming up in some form or fashion. Something's got to change. Something has to evolve. Something has to grow. And sometimes people have been thinking they are who they thought they were until somebody from the outside says, no, you're not. And for a lot of people, that realization disrupts them. Maybe their ego gets hit, their pride gets hit. Maybe they were this person in corporate America. Then they get let go, resized, reshuffled, and suddenly they're not who they thought they were. And now what we're discovering in this era is that we're running into a lot of people who would never have considered entrepreneurship, who would never have considered getting involved in the financial services industry. Can you speak to someone making that transition, moving to do something they never thought they would? Because 90% of the people we're getting licensed have zero financial service experience, which is actually a very healthy thing for the industry. Remember what I said, in order to make it, you need mental resolve, a thirst and a willingness to learn, and collaborative, achievement-driven, supportive relationships. If you're willing to learn, no one can stop you. If you're not willing to learn, no one can help you. People who aren't willing to learn how to earn honey in this space don't get good sleep at night. They have skinny children. And on Monday morning, they're afraid to go to the toilet because heart attack rates increase by 35% on Monday mornings from people going to go to jobs that aren't them. Wow, that's right. It's something else when you think about being stuck in a situation that isn't you. This space we're in, this is the only game in town. Computers aren't going anywhere. We have them in our business, and many times we don't even need human participation. The computer does the rest. But when you're in a space where you have to establish confidence, trust, and leadership, that's different. People are addicted to listening to personalities and responding to people who can speak to where they are, who've gone through what they've gone through. Your experience as a Marine instantly, people think of toughness, discipline, loyalty. that level of patriotism, that willingness to serve the country, to make the world a better place so we can get a good night's sleep without hearing bombs or worrying about ISIS. That kind of leadership is invaluable. It naturally creates a sense of safety. People feel, I trust this person. I feel safe with them. And you're going to attract people like you. Birds of a feather flock together. That's real in both a positive and a negative sense. When I think about Dexter, I look at you, and I remember Dexter had organizations in 26 different countries. He made $1 million every 17 hours. He used to drive 200 to 300 miles just to do a one-on-one close with someone, with his wife, to talk to another couple. If you're going to be in this organization, you should know the color of the rug in the living room of the person you recruited, because you've been there, you've done presentations. You should know their anniversaries because you're building a long-term relationship. Relationships are the true capital. Systems will always be a part of it. But as long as you are the constant, people will stay with you. They will trust the person who moved them to a place within themselves where they couldn't go by themselves and say, I can do this. I feel safe. And I'm going to stay the course. You can either live your dreams or live your fears. And I think the majority of people are not living their dreams, but are living their fears. So I want to ask you a question. What are your fears? What are you afraid of? What are you scared of? Because we all have fears, don't we? We all have something that's blocking us, something that's holding us back. And as we begin to look at life, what we realize is that the reason most people are not living out their true potential, not doing all the things they would really like to do, is because of fear. Some people call fear false evidence or expectations appearing real. I'm reminded of a story about a guy who was living in an area where he had some new neighbors. These neighbors had a bulldog. Every day when he came home, this bulldog would chase him about half a block from his house. Every single day he would have to streak home, just run, because this bulldog would be right on his heels. After a while, he got tired of it. He knew that when he was about a half block away from home, he'd have to look around for this bulldog. And sure enough, there it was. So he'd be walking casually, and then boom, that bulldog would come out of nowhere and start chasing him again. He'd run home. One day he just got tired, so when the bulldog started running after him, he started running too. But then he saw a rock. He stopped, picked it up, and got ready to throw it at the bulldog. And when the bulldog got up close to him, barking ferociously, he realized the bulldog didn't have any teeth in its mouth. Then he turned the tables. He started chasing the bulldog. You better get on away from here. Because the most that bulldog could do was gum him to death. You see, most people go through life running scared. Running scared from things that have no teeth in them, things that are just false expectations appearing real. We are brilliant enough to scare ourselves to death. Do you realize that? There are actually people who get a kick out of scaring themselves to death. I remember the last frightening movie I saw. It was The Exorcist. I will never forget, I was so frightened. When I came home, I had already called my former wife and said, listen, turn all the lights on. When I drove into the driveway and tried to get out of the car, suddenly I couldn't move. I started blowing my horn, yelling, they got me, they got me. My wife came to the kitchen window and shouted, take your seat belt off, fool. Oh, okay. I was frightened out of my wits, but some people like that feeling. They love it. I have a twin brother. He's a paratrooper, a career military man. I would love to jump out of an airplane and parachute like him, but I'm scared. I really admire my brother for that. I would love to be that macho man, but I have my fears. So I ask you again, what are the things you fear? What's keeping you from living your dream? What's stopping you from doing some of the things you'd like to do? Just think about those things for a moment. Now, how do we begin to handle fear? Abraham Maslow said that life is about growth. He said you can either go back to your comfort zone where you won't find any growth, or you must be willing to go forward and face your fears again and again and again. Because you're never going to have a fear-free existence. Some fear is acceptable and legitimate. There are things you should be afraid of. But you shouldn't allow fear to immobilize you. Acknowledge it. Take it into account. Carry yourself accordingly. There are times when we should proceed with caution, but there's a difference between being stopped by fear and having fear stop you. So what do? First, acknowledge your fears. Know that it's okay. Don't condemn yourself for being afraid. It's perfectly fine. Acknowledge your fears, embrace them, and then move forward. Act on what it is that you fear, because once you embrace it, you begin to realize what you resist will persist. What you resist will persist. One of the most important things you can do is begin to embrace your fears. The next thing Take full responsibility for your life. Accept where you are and take responsibility for getting where you want to go. Someone once said, we have two primary choices in life. We can either accept conditions as they exist, or we can take responsibility for changing them. A lot of people want to exempt themselves from responsibility. They just want to talk about the problem. Every time you see them, they'll tell you their story over and over and over again. No, you want to take responsibility for your life. I got me here. I can get me out of here, and I will get out. I'm not going to be a volunteer victim. George Bernard Shaw said there are three kinds of people in life. Those who make things happen, those who watch things happen, and those who don't know what happened. And he said, the people who get along in this life look around for the circumstances they want. And if they can't find them, they make them. So if you want to get unstuck, you've got to decide that your current behavior patterns aren't working for you. You've got to change your strategies, and changing your strategies means reinventing your life, recreating yourself. You have the power to do that. You can decide, I'm not going to be a wimp. I'm going to stand up to life. I'm going to live each day as if it were my last. You have the power to make that decision. You can decide, I'm going to work on myself. I'm going to develop myself. I'm going to empower myself. And all these things happening to me right now, they're just temporary inconveniences. They are not stronger than I am. I am in charge here. Next, separate what you do from who you are. That's where guilt comes in. A lot of people won't let you forget what you used to do, the mistakes you've made. But guess what? All of us have made mistakes. If we had the chance to do things over again, we'd do them differently. But it didn't happen that way. And that's what you call life. Some people will never let you live down your past. They want to keep throwing it in your face, reminding you of what you did. But you know what? I'm not interested. That's what I did then. That's not who I am now. You're picking on an innocent man. Hello? So, as you're in the process of reinventing your life, take a moment and write down a description of the kind of person you want to be. What are the things that you must overcome? What qualities about your personality do you know you will have to change because those particular characteristics are liabilities to you? What are your assets? What are your strong points? Look at and evaluate yourself to make that determination. The other thing is that in order to get out of a rut, we need some coaching. Find some trusted critics, people that you know care about you and love you. There are some things that keep us from growing and getting out of ruts. Number one, we identify with feedback. We take it personally when someone wants to give us feedback on where we are falling short and tell us about our blind spots. We want everything to be positive about us, but we're not perfect. It hurts. I have a friend who's a trusted critic. I don't like him, but I love him. He doesn't tell me the things I want to hear. He tells me what I need to hear so I can grow. It hurts when he puts me on the hot seat. I can't stand it. But that's the only way I can grow, and I'm glad that he loves me enough to risk our friendship to tell me what I need to hear, not what I want to hear. Get a support group, somebody that you can talk to, people who might have a similar problem. Support groups are very powerful. You can share some of the challenges that you're going through, and it might be a situation where one person can give you an idea of how they handled that situation, creating an opening for you to begin to stimulate some possibilities in your mind on how you can resolve the problem. We can't grow by ourselves. As I mentioned before, we grow from people and projects. The other thing about life, when things happen to you, when you permit things to use you, you can't change the past, but you can reinterpret how you see it. For years, I was walking around with a heavy load on my shoulders, feeling bad because I was adopted. I did interviews for adoption agencies and foster homes, and I was on television once. I told the audience in this particular interview that I was given away. My twin brother and I were just 6 weeks old. Fortunately, a friend of mine was listening to the program. She said, "Les, I'd like to have lunch with you." So I went over to see her. She said, when a woman carries a baby for 9 months, feeling that life move inside her, it's automatic and natural for her to learn to love that baby, to expect it to come into this world. When she bears the pain to bring it into the world, that creates a bond. Your mother, my Brown, when she came in to adopt you guys, she didn't go through that process. She looked at whoever your biological mother was and said, "I'll take them. You weren't given away, Les, you were chosen with love." How would you respond when someone's back is up against the wall, facing failure time and time again? Let me just share a quick story. Years ago, I worked with Tony Robbins. In 1999, I was working with Tony Robbins. I thought model one of the best. It was either Stephen Covey or Tony Robbins. And at the time, I had a little connection with Tony Robbins, so I went with Tony Robbins. I got so pumped after a year of working there, I gave over 240 presentations. What a great training opportunity. I traveled the country and was able to present so many times. Finally, he was on stage talking about living your dreams. He said, "When would now be a good time?" He told the 5,000-person audience, and I remember I nudged my wife and said, "That's my calling, man. I'm making excuses for myself. It's time for me to go live my dream." Anyway, long story short, I left the Tony Robbins organization. I called my parents and said, "Mom, Dad, can we and the kids stay at your home for just a couple of months while I do my first seminar?" Our home was actually rented out at the time because we were traveling so much, so I couldn't go there. And Mom and Dad said, "Absolutely." Well, those 2 months turned into 5 years in the basement of their house. And I thought, oh my gosh. In my darkest moment, my wife said, "You should go get a job." I said, "But I hear Les Brown in me. My calling is to do this. There's got to be a way. I can't just give up on the 10-yard line." And she said, "Well, what are you going to do?" I said, "Honey, I'm going to go write a book." She said, "You're going to do what? Have you even read a book?" Anyway, I said, "I'm going to go write a book." And we had a car repossessed, so we ended up with one car. I decided I couldn't write where the kids were, so I drove down to the grocery store parking lot and started to type. 2 months later, If You Think You Can was written. 3 months later, it was published. And in 2005, my world turned overnight. That book became an international bestseller. We just came out with the 15th version, which is being released next week. It's just unbelievable. I have always told audiences, believe in yourself, believe in your dreams, figure out the right strategy, but never give up. So how do you counsel people to respond to challenges without giving up? Well, first of all, we always have a choice. There's something in us, as you know, that's greater than anything we face, even though we have no evidence to point to prove it. Like as I'm speaking to you now, I had to prepare myself mentally because I'm in pain. Cancer has eaten 40% of my T1 vertebrae and metastasized to my T2, T7, and C7. And just this morning, I spoke to an audience. I said, a doctor looked at me and said 3 words that no one ever wants to hear: "You're cancer." The audience got quiet. And I said, "Sir, can you give me a second opinion?" He said, "Yes, and you're ugly too." That's good. I said, I've got issues. Here's the thing, life is a fight for territory. And once you stop fighting for what you want, what you don't want will automatically take over. So I could have said, this pain is just too great. But my affirmation to myself, whenever I'm going through a tough time, and I'm a 27-year cancer conqueror, is, no matter how bad it is or how bad it gets, I'm going to make it. And I think that people who make it through the storms of life, and we are always going to have storms, understand this. Forrest Gump said, life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. My book of life says, think it not strange that you'll face the fiery furnaces of this world. You will have tribulations. It's called life. What's key is to visualize and see yourself on the other side. Hold that vision. He said, I'll give you all your eyes can see. Hold that vision and say to yourself, wow, that came out great. I made it through. I learned some things. Every day for 27 years, I've been saying, I thank God I'm cancer-free. People say, wait a minute, you've been saying that for 27 years. I mean, obviously it's not happening. I say, no, that's not true. Number one, I'm still here. Og Mandino said, persist until you succeed. Well, just think minus 27 years. When will a baby walk? It will walk when it walks. When will it talk? It will talk when it talks. And some talk sooner than others. And so many times we give up out of frustration and lack of patience. To me, the people that make it through have a series of perseverance, persistence, and patience, and they show up with that every day until they get the desired results they want. I know there's not a doubt in my mind. I don't just believe. I know that I am going to be free of cancer, that this is not unto death. There's something I have to align myself with because cancer cells have gone crazy. So as I'm working on myself and working on the goals and dreams and other areas of my life that I have not resolved yet, I remain persistent. I keep coming back again and again and again. As I told my children, even a broken clock is right twice a day. A breakthrough is coming. That is so awesome. Despite your battle with cancer, if you even called it a challenge, you're still learning things about yourself that you didn't know before, right? Yes, it introduces you to a part of yourself that you're not familiar with. It helps you prioritize things and determine what's important and what's not. There were things that used to make me angry that I now just let pass. For instance, yesterday when I arrived here in New Jersey, I was walking down the sidewalk and a man had his luggage blocking the way. He saw me coming and all he had to do was pull his luggage back so I could pass, but he refused to move it. He was standing there with his wife, which meant that I had to move my own luggage into the street and then get back on the sidewalk. As I did that, he said, "Good, I'm glad you did that." I looked at him and simply said, "Thank you." I got into the car that was waiting for me and I said to my friend, "You know what? There was a time when I would have hooped his ass. At one point I wanted to look at him and say, 'You're about to make me lose my mind up in here. But at 74 years old, no. Every emotion matters. I laugh a lot because 1 minute of laughter boosts your immune system for over 24 hours. Think about that. 1 minute of laughter strengthens your immune system for a full day. On the other hand, 20 years of anger will make you sick, and even just 4 to 5 hours of anger weakens your immune system. So I deliberately choose not to get angry. I refuse. Anger is like a wind that blows out the lamp of the mind. I study psychoneuroimmunology. I understand that our thoughts create gene expressions, that they generate a certain chemistry in our body that can be toxic. As a cancer conqueror, I can't afford to get angry. I choose not to go there. We always have a choice. And I believe that the type of program you have gives people the mental, emotional, psychological, and spiritual muscle to develop clarity of mind, to step back and say, "You know what? I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to let this get to me. I'm better than this." Then they rise above it and move on with their lives. Wow, that's powerful. Thank you for sharing all that. You said something that stood out to me, a little nugget I want to draw attention to. You mentioned that some people give up on their goals because they lack patience. That made me think of the law of the harvest, which has 3 principles. First, you reap what you sow. Second, you receive increased returns. You get more than you sow. And third, delayed gratification. You don't always see results immediately. Sometimes we give up on our goals because we haven't given our seeds time to grow and bear fruit. We give up too soon. Any thoughts on that? Yes, some things we pursue in life teach us through the process. I believe that we grow from both people and projects. I'll be a better person at the end of this program because of our communication. When we take on projects, they challenge us. Why? Because if we truly want to grow, we have to choose projects that push us beyond our comfort zone. To do something you've never done, you have to become someone you've never been. Along the way, certain experiences will shape us. Some things happen to us, and some things happen for us. I believe that many of the things happening for us, we may not even be aware of in the moment. That's what psychologists call our toe-ozzy, our blind spots. There was a lady I met, she was an intuitive. And she wrote me a note when she found out that I was a 27E cancer coacher. And she said, "This is not unto death for you." She said, "Search your heart and find out what's there." She was one of the people who gave me a book years ago that I read called Who's the Matter with Me? And what I realized, TJ, and this is the first time I've ever talked about this publicly, was that somewhere in me, I had consciously recognized that I had anger at my birth mother and father. How can you bring someone into this world who didn't choose to be here and then walk away? And even though we are told, forgetting those things which are behind and reaching forth unto those things which are before, I would wake up in the middle of the night with this unresolved pain. Sometimes you can get a message from a movie, right? There was a movie with Tom Cruise called Magnolia. I never saw the whole movie, but there was a quote that woke me up around 3:15 a.m. I'll never forget it. The quote was, "We might be through with our past, but our past is not through with us." I had unresolved stuff in me. For a period of time, I saw myself as having been given away. But there's been a shift in my consciousness. Now, when I look at my life, I realize I was chosen with love, that God took me out of my biological mother's womb and placed me in the heart of my adopted mother. And that's why I know now that I've come to grips with it. But I had to get some help. And I believe you ask for help not because you're weak, but because you want to remain strong. You ask for help and don't stop until you get it. And so when she said, "This is not unto death for you, search your heart," I said, "Can you help me go there?" And she did, because sometimes somebody can take you to a place within yourself that you can't go by yourself. In that session, I realized the anger and hatred that I had for 2 people whose faces I don't even have. I've never seen my birth mother or birth father. And I had to resolve that. I had to forgive myself first and then forgive them. And that's when the healing takes place. Because cancer cells gone crazy, yeah. And so now, as I move to a place of love, God is love, and he who dwelleth in love dwelleth in God, and God in them, as I move to a place of love for them, I am now in harmony and integrity with who I am as a person. I have forgiven myself. I have forgiven them. And I am living this mission of making the world a better place than how I found it, of being a source of light and hope and inspiration for people. And you're doing an awesome job. There is no long-term benefit in being a grudge holder, holding resentment toward people. I always tell people, do things bug me? Well, things bug me, but listen, I don't live there. I always tell people I let things roll off my back. You can criticize me all day long. And you know what? I'm not going to internalize that, because I know who I am and I'm thankful for who I am. And that is real. Because the stuff we take on, it's like they say, hating someone is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. No, it doesn't work like that. We all need coaching on how to let some things go. One of the things I teach is let go or be dragged. There are certain things you know you need to let go of, or otherwise they will compromise your power and drag you down. And it takes time to do that. It does. It does. In your book, I remember this story, such a great book, by the way. You walked into a junior high or elementary school and you said, there's greatness in this room. If you're here, would you please stand? And you had to say it over and over. And then one young person, didn't they stand up and say, here I am? That young man, I'm working with him today. Oh, you're kidding. No, he's been with me since that time. He's an attorney now, and he also works with youth. We go to prisons and juvenile detention centers together, yes, and he is truly manifesting his greatness. And I'm proud to say I'm one of his mentees, because it's a seesaw relationship. First, I started out being his mentor, but he has incredible skills with the millennials and with technology that I don't have. So he's teaching me how to connect with them and how to use technology to further the work that I'm doing and to create non-performance income. So this thing called life, I believe you're never too old to learn and you're never too young to teach. And he's teaching me now, and I'm proud of it. That's awesome.